Yippee-ki-yay, brother. We are going into the fourth hour of the show. Road Gang Radio Live. Give us a call. Later on, we'll have some free space, but we're about to talk music again with Jimmy and Lindsay.
Woo! Take it away, Lindsay. Woo!
Welcome back to Road Gang Radio. Such a cool conversation with Gary Graff. Love having him on. Love diving into 90s albums with him. Make sure you go check him out. You can find him on Facebook at Gary Graff on music.com. A award-winning music journalist. I love to nerd out with him. And speaking of nerding out, I'm excited to nerd out with our next guest, Alaina Stacey. Not because she's a nerd, because she's a badass, but she's a nerd when it comes to music.
Nerd.
I mean that as a compliment because she's all in. She loves what she does. She's been on with us before talking about her last record when we had her on. I think it was last year, Jim, when we had her on about her release of her EP Day. She's doing a really cool project where the new record that we're getting a sneak peek into, the new EP, which comes out July 18th. She'll be playing a show in Nashville on the release day, which will be fun. We're going to dive into that. Alaina is a really beautiful voice. I was listening, actually, Jim, last night. I was listening to her new single, Insomnia, while I was driving home.
Good stuff.
It was so good, but I'm driving home from the Country Music Hall of Fame. It was midnight. It was dark. I was listening to Insomnia and getting insomnia, thinking about having to go to bed. I knew I was on such a high, and I'm like, oh my God, she's in my bones right now. Her voice is haunting, and I mean that as the highest compliment. She returns now. So glad to have you back. This is a fusion of, which we're going to talk about, Americana, folk, classic songwriting, country. We're going to talk about throwing the word genre out the window and just singing from your soul. She does this so well. Good morning. Please make welcome back to the show, friend of the show, Alaina Stacey. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you. Wow, I feel really good about myself right now.
Now live up to it.
Kind word.
Now live up to it. That's your job.
By the end of this, you'll hate yourself. Don't worry. By the end of this, we'll tear you down.
That's okay. That's my job.
I'll get right back to that perfect comfort level.
Fantastic.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back. I'm so glad to chat with you guys again.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. And this concept situation, when you have dawn, day, and dusk, a three chapter emotional journey, so to speak, of these EPs you're releasing. Yes. I love this take, and I want to start here since I mentioned it, the genre bending. We talk a lot on this show about stop putting me in a box. Nobody puts Alaina in a box. And do you feel that with these projects you're releasing? Because as I was listening to your music as a whole, I'm like, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, and that makes me happy. Do you when you go into create, are you able just to create and take off the labels of who and what is Alaina and be like, what is lighting me up today, and go for it? Are you hopefully able to do that?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad to hear that it makes you happy not being able to quite put me into a box, because that's something that I've struggled with ever since moving to Nashville and starting this whole journey. And so I really do enjoy kind of meeting each song every time I go in, either to a co-writing session or just to sit down to write by myself, not having any goal, just there to see what comes out. And I mean, I don't think there's anyone in the whole world who only listens to one type of music. Maybe there is, but I think most people that I know,
that person is boring.
A wide variety. Yeah, exactly. I think most people have a wide variety of taste, and so I think it's a little bit crazy to think, oh, I'm only going to have one sound that comes out of me when there are so many things that go into it. And so I'm so glad to hear that that it makes you happy to not really know how to label the songs or how to label the EPs, because that's the whole point, right? Is, like you said, throwing genre out the window and finding a different way to group these songs together that feels right and feels good and evokes that emotional sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because this is okay. Now here's my cosmic cosmic brain.
Ooh, yay! Let's go.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's get up, and get down. I want to point out the fact that I believe that when you're steeped enough in musicology, when you actually have enough references to kind of pull from, that all songwriting is in of itself, and all artistic creation is an act of creating a seance where you create a space. in which you introduce an object, a lyric, a bit or a piece from something that brings you joy, and you attempt to summon the spirit of what was once there into said piece, and therefore bring life into it. The titles of these albums, Dusk, Dawn, Day, in many ways, have that sense of of movement, kind of moving through time and space to kind of create something that takes us forward at the same time. When you're writing these songs, when you're writing something like Insomnia, and I believe it's an easy answer in regards to, are you possessed by the Spirit when you sing? Of course you are. But the other question is, when you create them, when you're writing them, are you cognizantly aware of the spirits and the energies that you are calling upon from the past to infuse the song with the present meaning to bring us into the future?
Yeah, what an awesome question. Oh my gosh. I want to say most of the time, yes. I think
and the other times I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
Exactly. no. But I do, I think there's kind of both going on, because I guess unfortunately, but maybe also fortunately, sometimes this job is part of the machine, right? Like, it's like, we got to get these songs out, we got to write more songs, we got to put more music out. And I'm glad that there's music out there for us all to hear, but sometimes it can feel a little bit like, rather than invoking that spirit and writing what comes out, sometimes it can be like, all right, here we are, we got together to do this, what are we going to do? And so I think there is definitely, you can feel the difference when you are in a co-write or by yourself writing, and things are coming out that are just, you can't describe where they're coming from, and there's just an energy and an ease, not necessarily an ease, sometimes it's still a struggle, but just a flow that feels like, okay, this is coming from that space. And then there are times where it's like, all right, what are we going to get down here on the paper? But I would say most of the time, yes, I do feel aware of that magic and that cosmic
woo
energy, exactly, that coming out and kind of informing what's gonna come out of our mouths and come down on the paper. And I think that with Insomnia, which you mentioned, and thank you so much for your kind words, and I'm glad it was, you listened to it in the right vibe, and that's what this whole project is about. I think, that one, it's funny, it came from an assignment. I was in a psychology class at the time, and we had to do an artistic expression assignment, and we could basically make any type of art about any kind of psychological concept. And so, of course, I had to write a song. So this one, I didn't choose Insomnia on purpose. It just sort of is what came out. And even though the task was set for me to write the song and that it was an assignment, this one definitely flowed in a way that was not, it wasn't intentional, if that makes sense. It just came out. I didn't set an intention to be like, here's the topic I'm writing about. It just kind of came.
What a cool project.
Yeah, totally. Shout out to Professor Garvin if he's listening. Thank you for
Shout
that
out,
comment.
Garvin. PG for the win.
Yes.
I got a couple of things here. Just be patient with me, guys. I just want to, and I got questions for you as well too. But I want to tell people that on 75 northbound on mile marker 269 in Georgia, there's an accident backup. There's a 10 to 15 minute delay, guys. Just be careful out there while you're on the roads on this long 4th of July weekend.
Alaina, write a song about it. Quick, go.
But
yeah. On it.
Yeah, but Alaina, the idea, first of all, kudos to you for reminding everybody out there that no matter how talented or established or how much you think you know, it never hurts to also be in a classroom. That we always keep learning, we always keep kind of putting that together. The second thing is the fact, do you think that the strictures of that classroom, of the assignment, actually made it easier to write the song? Because it's like, I got to let it go. I got to do the thing I was told to do, so I'm going to make this work as well as I can and find the freedom in the box as opposed to try to break outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, and that's exactly how I felt. It was like, all right, I have this thing I got to accomplish. That actually gives me freedom and joy to just let what comes out come out.
The let what comes out, I resonate with that because I've said before, we moved out to the woods a couple of years ago, Alaina, and I had never not lived in the city or suburbia, and my writing changed exponentially being out here because it's just something about going outside and being, as I call it, my little cosmic download. All of a sudden, there's a song in your head. Like, where did that come from? That wasn't me. I mean, it's, inspired for sure, but I definitely resonate with the flow piece. Okay, I want to talk about, because you were in maybe April, a vocal group, versus now being a solo artist. And I'm curious your take, not that one's better or worse, they're obviously just very different. I've always only been a solo artist, worked with a band, but it's different players every time. And I've said a lot lately, now that I'm an old decrepit lady, that I'm like, I would, if I could go back and do it differently.
Lindsay.
Back in my day. No, it was like, if I could go back and do it again, maybe I would have been in a band, or at least started that way, just for to have the camaraderie happens on stage no matter what, and collaboration, but not having to have everything on your own shoulders, I guess is what I'm saying. If you're when you were in with maybe April, it's like, it's not all on you. But now it's all on you, which is also a positive thing. But just talk a little bit for our listeners who don't understand the difference in being in a vocal group versus now you're out there on your own. There's a different raw vulnerability to it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. I am really glad that I started as a group. I was 18 when I moved to Nashville, and so I think if I had been doing my own solo thing, I think I would have felt a lot more lonely, a lot more lost. I might have wasted more time just trying to find myself and figure it all out. And so I think having that support and having that friendship when I started was really important for me later to have the confidence to do it by myself. Being on the road was so much more fun. Some of my best memories are just being on the road, driving for 12, 18 hours, being exhausted, but we had a whole system. One person drives, the other person keeps them awake, the third person sleeps in the back, rotate. We had a whole system, and it was just, we were young, and it was.
And then you played a show.
Yes, exactly. One time, actually, speaking of being in this class, one time I couldn't leave. We had a show in New York, and I couldn't leave until 9 p.m. the day before. So my bandmates picked me up from school at 9 p.m., and we drove overnight to New York City from Nashville. I mean, that's insane, but it was fun, in the moment. It was fun, and it was crazy, and it was like, I'm so glad that I had that experience with those girls and that we were able to be there for each other and support each other in that way. And now being older and being more confident to do it on my own, there are absolutely benefits to that as well. I don't have to ask anyone else for what I want to do. I can just do it the way I want it, and that's great too. And I think back then I needed that collaboration. I needed that, talk back to figure out which direction to go. And now, having had that experience, I have a little bit more freedom. But sometimes it feels more lonely, and I wish I had somebody to say, hey, what do you think about this? So that's when I call my dad.
Aww. Love that.
It's...
Call me. Yeah. Call me, Alaina.
Well,
okay, perfect. I will.
That by there's an expression that a lot of people in trucking have that actually is really makes this relatable, in the sense that even if you are a solo operator, you're only as good as your partners. And people always forget. Lindsay loves to talk about process in this way, that she wants more people to be aware of how the sausage gets made, the mechanics of what it is. When somebody can sing something like Insomnia and make it sound like, I just thought it up and did it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there really is the best songs, unless you're talking about progressive rock albums of the 1970s, need to sound like, we just woke up one morning, we just cut this hit, you know?
I woke up like this.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, it took 30 years.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is the fact that, so I would ask you a question on a personal, if you talk about calling your dad, I'd love to hear that, by the way, who your partners are. And I don't mean who you're playing with, but I mean in regards to making the operation that is you work, who do you really rely on? How do you make all of this work for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is. My dad is my foundation, my base. He was a musician way back in the day before I was born. He still is. You never aren't a musician once you start, but not practicing anymore. And so he's been so wonderful for me, just as far as he gives me all the time of day, which I just so appreciate. I'm I'm very fortunate to have a parent, and my mom as well, but my dad is more of the like action task oriented guy. So he's really a big base for me. I talk with my husband a lot. And then also just other musician friends. I have a friend, Madeline Kelson. She's an excellent artist. Definitely recommend checking her out. She and I kind of, as solo artists, will often turn to each other for advice or just to bounce things off of each other. We play shows together, so we don't have to go out there on the road alone. So I would say it's mostly family, honestly, and then a few artist friends who we kind of watch each other's backs and help each other out.
Well, and having that from the get go, you find out who your friends are is a great song, but also a great just a life metaphor in general. Especially as, and I'm not going to play the male female card, but except that I am. You're navigating spaces that, of course, are historically dominated by male artists here in the country scene, and we had years ago that stupid DJ that made the tomatoes. Yeah, the tomatoes, whatever, But I feel like that's sort of gone. But I want to get your take, because I'll tell you this. I had an epiphany recently when I threw out the window, okay, yes, maybe I focus for too long, or I'm a female, or I'm getting older. And I think we get in our heads. There's a lot of very powerful artists that you guys know, names I won't say, but a lot of female artists who have lost their voices later in life. And I know this because my friend is a vocal coach to a lot of them. And what I came to find out, Alaina, I think, my take is that I think females start to lose their voice later in life, but it's strictly a confidence thing, because we have it in the back of our head. I'm aging. I'm probably aging out. Yes. And you're young, so this doesn't apply to you, but it's always probably in the back of our head subconsciously. Sure. But I think it's a confidence thing. And once we throw it out the window, like we're throwing genre out the window, once we throw age, race, male, female, whatever out the window, and realize songwriting is literally a thing you can do on your deathbed. I mean, it is a job we can do till the day we die. And once you claim power to that, I think you're good. You're golden. It's like nothing else matters. Is that something that you, navigating this world in the entertainment business and your age, have you been able to sort of mentally take power back and be like, this is what I'm here to do. There's no backup plan. So move, bitch, get out the way. Do you feel that?
Yes, absolutely. No, that's such a great observation. And I think, I'm a new mom now, so there's that
congratulations
as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's a whole nother thing is, as a woman in the music industry, like, oh, she had a baby, so now she's done, or like that, fighting so hard against that as well. And I think, there's absolutely a power in taking that back and just saying, screw it, I don't care what other people are going to think or what society has put on me in this, and to just go out and do it. And it's maybe cheesy, but, music is the universal language, right? Like you said, you can write songs on your deathbed. There are songs I don't even know, they're in a different language. I don't know what they're saying, but I can feel what they're saying, or I can understand the message that's trying to get across. And I think that when you remember that music is everywhere, in everything, for everyone, that can bring back a lot of confidence and power and beauty in music when we get in our heads about all that other stuff and about getting older, especially as a woman in the music industry, and getting older, being a mom, all the things that are required of us or asked of us. And so I'm, navigating that is hard, but it is also empowering just to remember this is why we do this. The music is why we do it.
Yeah, and just a real quick story that will make you feel good and laugh. I've talked about this a lot on the show today because I performed at the Country Music Hall of Fame last night, and
it was a big deal. She did great. By
the way,
it
was a big deal.
A huge deal. That's amazing. Congratulations.
But to your point, thank you. To your point of the congratulations on having a baby. And what was funny last night, I performed one of the guys I sang with, which was Marcus Hummin, who wrote. Tons of hits, but including he wrote Born to Fly with Sarah Evans. And he was telling the story on stage last night that when he and Daryl Scott went in to write with Sarah, they weren't getting anywhere. He said she would get normally artists. He said will show up and they'll be all dolled up, especially the younger ones. He said they showed up to write with her. She was in like sweats. She had just had a baby. She was in sweats and sort of dolled down. And he said they just weren't getting anywhere on a song. And she got a phone call and she went away to take the phone call. And Marcus said he and Daryl sat there and Daryl goes, well, this isn't going well. And they're like, it's okay. Just take a breath. He said, and then she came back from the phone call and she was crying. And he said, well, what happened? She goes, well, that was the president of my label. And Marcus thought, oh, crap, she's getting dropped. Our time here is worthless. And he said, well, what did he say? And I won't say the name of the label exec, but I will say it here. Sure. Call me. No, he said, he said, well, now you've had the baby, time to lose the weight. Oh. And this is the moment everybody boos.
Boo.
Yeah. And so Marcus said, and here's the power move right here, Alaina. This will make you feel good. And to my point, this is why you align with people who are there for you. Marcus said, in that moment, he picked up the phone and they ordered 2 large pizzas. And they had them delivered, he said, and then we wrote Born to Fly, which was a number 1. Take that, bitches. So, like, I feel like, to your point, you align with people who are there for you. And I think when you own it, like, I had a baby, just keep owning everything. We used to hide things. And I think maybe this is a positive piece of social media because we can put our lives out there and when it's used positively and say, I had a baby, I gained weight, whatever it is, be like, but listen, I'm still me, I'm still making music, and it's probably better now because I have more stories to tell.
Yes, I know. I love that story, and it's such a, like you were saying, such a good example of just letting go and just saying, screw all those other people, I don't care, I'm going to just be me, and that's when the freedom comes to make something awesome. So I love that story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yes, go order 2 pizzas, Alaina, and write a number 1.
Yes, I will.
By the way, we got a chance to do an early listen to our friend's upcoming EP, DUSK. It's set for release on July the 18th. Just a remarkable piece of work, by the way. Okay, so we got a chance to talk to Gary Graff in the last half hour, who's one of the most celebrated music journalists in the world. He wrote 2 books, 501 Essential Albums of the 80s, 501 Essential Albums of the 90s. So I'm going to buy you a little bit of time here and not just ask the question point blank. If I was going to ask you to pick 3 or 4 albums that you've listened to from the 90s that you still kind of go back to for inspiration, and then let you take it a little forward, by the way. One
or 2000s based on what inspired you growing up.
But the idea is to kind of return there. And the follow-up is, but you can also expand that a little bit. What is on the nightstand? What is on the playlist? What do you always go back to and be like, how can I steal a little bit more from that? Because that's where it's at.
Oh, my gosh. Great question. Let me think.
I hope it's hardcore gangster rap.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
you listen to my music. You get it.
Yeah, I get it.
You can change your mind 5 seconds from now. I mean, you can.
While she's thinking about that, let me tell you that July 18th, while the record comes out that day, she will also be at the 5 spot in Nashville for the EP release of East Nashville, the 5 spot, which is one of the coolest, best venues in Nashville. So be there. I will be there. Okay. Did that buy you time to figure it out?
Yes. Okay. Well, one that comes to mind is I just looked it up to see. It's a 2001 release.
Good enough.
So it's
close
not
enough.
quite 90s, but. And this is going to sound hilarious because it's so not in my genre, but the Ben Folds album, Rockin' the Suburbs.
Oh, my God. It's
Come
amazing.
on.
That's an amazing album.
Give the women a prize.
That makes sense, actually. That makes sense because there's a kind of existential sadness that ripples through a lot of those songs.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Storytelling.
Absolutely, man.
Yes. So much storytelling. I mean, still fighting it. Rockin' the Suburbs, obviously. The Luckiest. I mean, come on. There's so many songs on there. Yeah, same. So that's one that I always come back to. I love Ben Folds, and that there's not a skip on that album. So that would be one.
Alaina, I sang The Luckiest at a funeral and Still Fighting It at a wedding. So that just...
Wow,
that
that's
speaks
like
volumes.
backwards.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I love that. That's cool.
By the way,
That's really cool.
guys, my little nephew, 8 years old, thinks the Battle of Who Could Care Less, another Ben Folds song, is one of the funniest things he's ever heard in his life. And he actually asked me, he says, "Is it bad to be dressed up like The Cure?" I said, "It will never rest fighting the Battle of Who Could Care Less." Absolute genius. Absolute genius, man.
I love it. Oh, that's so great. Wow. I mean, I also love that, these artists that maybe might be considered like in the past now, that there's how old did you say he is? 7?
He's 8 years old. 8 years old.
old.
I've got this great idea. I mean, it's just
great.
the best song.
So
One of the fun. It's like in the idea that, like I said, your song Insomnia, the idea that we can actually, the song is written in a way that we can hear you wrestling with sleep in the same way, in a very different way from the Bare Naked Ladies Insomnia song, Who Needs Sleep. It's such a different way to kind of deal with it. It's a beautiful song, by the way. Just want to let you know that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Lena, let's do a lightning round with you real quick.
Okay.
Dream duet partner that's alive. Let's say that's alive.
I'd love to do a duet with, Charlie Worsham.
Yeah.
I know that's, yeah. I love him so much. We did one of his songs at our wedding, and he's the first that comes to mind right now at the stage that I'm in my life.
And he just won Musician of the Year at the CMA, so that would be a good, and that's doable. That's an attainable one. So
you got it.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, we'll call him. Okay, if you could teleport to any stage, which is your dream stage that you would want to play on?
Ooh, cool. I'd love to play the Ryman.
Yeah, same.
Our listeners are noticing a pattern, by the way, but continue, Lindsay.
And finally, favorite writing spot in Nashville? Or anywhere. Favorite place to write music?
That's a really great question.
Oh, great question. This is going to maybe sound lame, but I'm going to say in my bedroom.
That's not lame.
Hey,
that's where the magic happens, baby.
Exactly. It's a lot of times it's like midnight, and I'm like, I got to sleep. No, but I can't. I have this song in my head, and I got to get
Insomnia. Insomnia.
By the way, it's such a powerful place that Brian Wilson actually turned it into a song. Don't ever think that in my room is not a place where you can go. I mean, that's a place where you should make all that stuff happen.
I mean, your husband might be like, "Please be quiet. I'm trying to sleep." But other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what guest bedrooms are for.
Alaina Stacey has joined us this morning.
That's exactly right.
Please, guys, the upcoming EP Dusk, it drops on July the 18th. A lot of groovy stuff coming very, very soon. Check out the entire trilogy, by the way. You can find her at AlainaStacey.com, on the Book of Face at Alaina Stacey Music, Alaina Stacey on the Gram of Instas, and on YouTube at Alaina Stacey ? No, I'm kidding, Alaina Stacey. And then Alaina Stacey on the X, formerly known as Twitter. We love having you here. Promise us you'll come back again.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Please come back for the final installment. And also, Alaina, we're launching a show at the end of next month called We Should Write, about the healing power of writing. Will you please be a guest on that show?
Ooh. I would love to. Please, please. That would be amazing.
Yay. Done. Have the best day.
Yay.
Go kiss that baby and husband for us, and tell your dad we said hi.
I will. Thank you both so much. It was so great to speak with you again.
You too. Bye, friend.
Oh, always like a good fan of you and I are big fans of our dads, and of course, and that hit me in the feels, man. When she said that, the idea, I got to call my dad. I got to call my dad. You got to make that precious every day, guys. If you got a dad and they're still with us, call him. Do it today.
I'm gonna go call my dad on this commercial break. He's picking me up to go to the airport today, so I'll call him to tell him I need a favor.
He woke me up an hour earlier this morning. Not your dad, my dad.
Oh, I was like, that's weird.